Hello and welcome to the Socially Ambitious Podcast. I'm your co-host Liv.
I'm your co-host Jess.
And I'm your co-host Anna.
On this show, we'll be delving into all things social media, delegation, and influencer marketing.
Join us for insightful conversations on mastering work-life balance, pursuing your passions, and crafting the life you've always dreamed of.
Get ready for actionable tips and empowering discussions.
Hello and welcome back to the Socially Ambitious Podcast. I am your host Liv. And we're back. We are back with another season of super valuable social media influencer industry knowledge that we can't wait to share with you guys. For today's episode, I'm super excited to share it with you guys. We have on my friend Lucy Nelles. She is a community builder, yoga teacher, founder of High Vibe Wellness, and co-founder of Coffee and Chill Miami. I have wanted to have her on for a while now. She is so inspiring and has been such a leader in the Miami community as of lately with her wellness events, and honestly just a super inspiring go-getter. She really cares about throwing quality events in the South Florida community, specifically to Miami, and just hearing about how her journey started so organically on social media is really just a cool story to hear, and we'll get into it. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but just a really, really great example of the power of social media. She is running these coffee and chill events with her co-founder Eric, who's also a good friend of mine. They're doing bi-weekly events with 500 people and they are selling out within minutes. I don't know if you guys understand, like, that is not a small feat. To throw an event and have like 50 people come out would be like so insane and so cool. To have 500 people bi-weekly is such an insane accomplishment, and I am just so happy for her, so happy for my friend Eric. They're absolutely killing it. If you want to check out one of these events in Miami, it's called Coffee and Chill. It's cold plunges, it's coffee. Great time. This is not a sponsored ad. I just really love seeing her journey through this and just seeing what you can do when you get like-minded people together, harness the power of social media. We dive into her social strategy behind these events and, what she thinks about when trying to go viral and create viral content for the events to have a more successful turnout for the next event and sell out faster for the next event. So we get all into it. She shares all her tips and tricks, and we were due for a good boss babe episode. So she definitely hit the mark with that. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. If you love this episode, which I know you will, send it to a friend who you know will love it, who is an aspiring boss babe, an aspiring community builder. We talk a lot about, leveraging your audience. And also we talk about how she has 7,000 followers, which to someone who's in the influencer space, that is considered a micro level. And she's having 500 people show up to these events bi-weekly. So that just goes to show numbers don't necessarily matter. It's so much more about like intention, strategy, the content you're sharing, the community you're building, the trust that you're gaining with your audience and your following. So very, very cool. I won't hold you guys any longer. Let's get into it. All right, you guys, I'm here with Lucy at the virtual Socially Ambitious podcast studio. I'm so excited to have you on. I have been thinking about having you on as a guest for a while now, and especially after the success of Coffee and Chill, I was like, we must have her on. We must make this happen. I can't wait to hear everything about it and everything that's led up to the success. And before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's start at the basics. For those who don't already know you and know what's going on in your life, give us a brief little introduction about who you are and what you currently do.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Super excited to chat today. My name's Lucy. I live here in Miami. I've been here for 3 years. I grew up in Sarasota. I was in New York for college, and then I moved here post-pandemic. And I run 2 wellness communities, High Vibe Wellness, which is like luxury, small, female-forward wellness events. And I also run Coffee and Chill Miami, which are, I'm sure we're going to get into all the details, but large scale, exciting ice bath events that happen every other weekend in Miami.
So cool. So exciting. I can't wait to deep dive into all of this. And I want to briefly talk about how you and I actually met through something completely different,
Yes.
which was like an influencer event for a sunglasses company.
Yes.
And I think that's so funny because obviously we followed each other since that point, and to watch your journey and when you're in this business and you meet so many people at different events, like you don't get a good idea of everything they have going on. So at the time I was like, oh, okay, she like does influencer events. She works for this company. And then to watch your growth and your journey since then has been so cool. But to kind of tie like make that full circle, I'd love to know what your experience was before you really deep dived into this entrepreneurial wellness community journey.
For sure. So when we met, I was working as the influencer marketing coordinator for an eyewear company. That was my first like post-college job. So like my
Okay.
first 5. I was there like just a little over a year. Great experience, first job. It wasn't too exciting. That was the first event I'd ever run, was the one that
Oh,
you came.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, you
that's the
slayed.
first. Huh?
I said you slayed.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think I was like, oh, I actually really like this. Maybe I should go down this path instead. I was running most of their like digital programs and like UGC deals and things like that, and their gifting and influencer collabs on Instagram and TikTok. And then I kind of like pitched the idea, like, I think we should do an event. And like we did this one-time event. And I really enjoyed doing that. And from there, I mean, I think it was a good job, but at the end of the day, I felt like I'm giving a lot of my energy and my time for 40 hours of my week to something that's not my own, that I didn't deeply care about.
Right.
Uh, and so it was just like, I knew I always kind of knew I wanted to do my own thing. And then I just decided on a whim to leave that job. And honestly, I had no plan. Like it was probably a little like technically irresponsible, but I also think like, it's good to follow your intuition. And if you make room for other things to come in, they will come in. So by removing that job off my plate and having so much free time to be creative and think about what I really wanted to do, that's how I got into doing the wellness events in Miami. I was doing like a bit of freelance work in between. I do, TikTok deals and things like that, but it was all very on the side.
Okay, I love that you made that point because I do think it's a lot of people feel like they can't leave one thing until they have something else lined up. And of course, it's like, not everyone has the opportunity to do that, but if you can, if you're in the situation where you could get away with that, like you don't always have to have the next thing lined up. Like I think you make a great point by just closing that door. You did give yourself the space to receive the next opportunity, even though it wasn't right there waiting for you. I love that.
Definitely. Yeah. I think if I stayed there, it would have never happened. It would have never been a good time to quit. It would have never been responsible. I would have never had time to work on anything else. So,
Right.
I mean, and I definitely like, had the privilege to be able to do that, but also it was probably pretty irresponsible. I had no savings. Like it was just totally, totally risky.
But you bet on yourself, you
Yes.
know? You bet on yourself because you knew you would figure it out. And I do think that's a perfect example of like sometimes closing a door is opening a door, even though if you're literally not, sometimes opening the door is just giving yourself that time and space and creativity to figure it out. I love that. And out of curiosity, what did you study in school if you did go to school?
Yeah, so I went to Parsons School of Design in New York. I studied strategic design and management, which is basically a fancy business degree. It's a degree focused on business for creative industries. If you're not familiar with Parsons, it's a very hands on program, super creative, lots of internships, zero testing, all projects, all small classes, like less than 30 people. So it was a very like hands on education. And yeah, I mean, I'm super, I think I actually use a lot of the skills that I learned now. So it's cool to see that because I think
Yes.
not many people can say that.
No, that is actually so cool. I love it. It sounds like that prepared you like exactly to do what you're doing, which is so cool. And it gave you that foundation of business knowledge, which, kind of was my next question of, well, before there's a few things I want to dive into. I want to dive into, this entrepreneurship journey, also the wellness journey, also the social media journey. But first, we'll start with social media.
Okay.
How did you kind of get your start in social media? What attracted you to it? Did you have your own page, and kind of just was that a hobby and then you saw it could be more? What did that look like for you?
So I downloaded, like everyone else, TikTok during quarantine. And I was posting like super stupid, silly videos. Like, oh
Same.
my God, so cringe. I would hate to scroll to the
Yeah,
bottom.
same. Don't look at mine.
Exactly. But right before, so during COVID, long story, but basically I was in New York and my boyfriend's from Ireland. So we went to Europe during COVID on like one of the last flights out because we didn't want to be stuck in like a studio in New York. So we ended up being stuck in Europe for like a little bit, almost a year actually.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, it was a while. And then basically when we were coming back to the US, we decided let's go to Miami because New York was still like weird post pandemic. And like I graduated in 2020 online and jobs were remote. So it like didn't make sense to go back to New York. So I posted this, there's like one video that I posted that was like, I'm moving to Miami. Like, here's me signing the lease online. Like, I've never really been there, like, one day in my life ever. Like, I knew nothing about Miami.
Wow.
And I was like, follow for like the journey kind of thing. And it popped off and it did really well. So that was like the start of like right when I moved here. I had a really good video that was about my life. I had had other like silly viral videos, but like they didn't really give any insight into who I was.
Right.
So that kind of started it. And then I had all this attention about me moving to Miami. So it was like, okay, let's just lean into that. Like I didn't know anyone here. So I was like, I had the time and like wanted to meet people. So I was like, okay, posting might be a good idea. So I posted like the apartment tour and furnishing the apartment and going to events in Miami and like all my real and honest thoughts about living here. And like in the beginning, I really didn't like living in Miami. I hated it for like the first like almost a year.
Really?
I think it like was very hard to adjust. It was hard to meet friends, and I was sharing about that process. And I think a ton of people at that time were moving to Miami. Like lots of people from New York were moving down. Like a lot of people were relating to this journey of like settling into a new city. So
Mhm.
it just kind of resonated. And that's like when I started really getting consistent. And then it went from like sharing my thoughts about it to, okay, now here's what I'm doing. Here's the restaurants I'm going to, the events I'm going to, things like that. And then brands started kind of reaching out like, oh, come review this restaurant. And that's kind of how it started. And that's when I realized like, oh, I could actually make money from this too, which is fun.
Wow, that is so cool. I had no idea. I love like learning new things about the guests that we have on. That is so cool. I love how authentic it was and is. Like you were just genuinely sharing your real life experience and
Yeah.
people wanted to tune in and people could relate to that. That's so, so cool. And that's the thing about TikTok too, is like I feel like it's such a nurturing platform for real life experiences like that and journeys like that. Like the fact that, like, what a perfect first video to pop off because then you're like, you have people invested. Like they're there with you and then they come along for your ride.
TikTok's very good about like finding your people too. Like if you want to build something local, like pretty much every hook on my TikTok is like starts with Miami, like all the Miami hashtags. And like it's very good about finding like the right people to serve your content to. So my community is definitely like 85% based in Miami, which has its pros and cons. But then it kind of led to a lot of friendships and like there was a
Yeah.
lot of benefits from posting.
So cool. Yeah, because it does like as much as it is the internet world, it does translate into real life. Like these are real people behind the screens.
Definitely.
So cool. So how did you get into the wellness aspect of things? Like what really drew you into that whole world?
I think, I'd always dabbled in wellness, but obviously when everything shut down during COVID and like the world kind of stopped and you had time to check in with yourself and realize like, okay, maybe I'm not taking the best care of myself. Maybe my
Yeah.
mental health isn't as where I want it to be. I started getting like super into like really eating healthy and working out a lot during that time. And then I gave up drinking as well. So when I moved here, it was like wellness was a way for me to make friends. It was like that's, at the studios, at the events and things like that. There's a lot of like the drinking culture in Miami. So it was like a way for me to connect with people that had similar values and interests. And then, I've just been like very into the wellness journey for a while now, like all the things, the tech products and the
Hmm.
routines and all of it. And then I got certified to become a yoga teacher about a little over a year ago at Mimi Yoga in Wynwood. So then it kind of like
So
took it to
cool.
another level as well. But I had started running the wellness events before being a teacher. I would just hire other teachers.
Right. That's so cool. What made you want to kind of take that leap as and become certified?
At first it was like a personal thing. Like I was doing so much yoga and I was like, it would be great to like really understand the practice more and
Right.
like deepen my practice. And I never really wanted to teach or thought I would teach. And then like everyone says you get certified and then you want to teach. So now I teach, but
Oh,
it
okay.
started as a personal thing.
Oh, I love that. Even better, honestly.
Yeah.
because it's, more of a passion and then, it's passion before profit, which is always nice.
Yes.
So, so cool. Okay, I want to get into how you feel like you've harnessed the power of your socials and your platforms to kind of convert them into these real life manifestations and these incredible events that you do with Coffee and Chill with like hundreds of people, selling out the tickets in minutes. How do you feel like, is that something that you had a vision for and you executed on? Is that something that you learned along the way? Like, walk me through what that looked like for you.
I think, like I was saying before, like it started, like the seeds were planted when I started sharing like recommendations for things to do in Miami,
Right.
because I would promote like friends of mine, like they would do an event and I would promote it. And then I'd go to the event and I'd see like, oh, all these people showed up because like they would come up to me and be like, oh, I came because of your TikTok. So I was like,
Nice.
okay, that's kind of cool. Like I can get
Yeah.
people to come to something because I'm posting about it. Like that's where the seeds were planted. And people were coming to me for recommendations of things to do in Miami anyway. So I
Right.
was like, okay, they already trust me. Like they go to the things that I recommend. And so when I started high vibe events, which are much smaller than Coffee and Chill, that's kind of how it started. I was like, I think that people would come because like they're already looking to me for things to do here. So it happened pretty organically. With Coffee and Chill, I think the success has come partly because they know now that not only do they trust my recommendations, but they trust my events. Like I've been doing high vibe events. We've done over 50 events, like lots of success there. So they know like, okay, the quality of the event is going to be up to a
Sure.
certain standard. I also think like with Coffee and Chill, the brand, the name, the energy of like how it's presented on social is like set up for success. There's a lot of viral potential. And it's reaching a much broader demographic than High Vibe, which is like your wellness girly, very specific
Right.
person, and it's a much higher ticket price. Whereas Coffee and Chill is meant to be accessible and approachable. It's under $30. It's for men and women and people in any phase of their wellness journey, whether you've cold plunged or you just want to meet some friends. Like it's a much broader demographic. And we also just accommodate a lot more people. So it's set up to be able to scale quicker. Um, and I think, yeah, it came from like, I co-founded Coffee and Chill Miami with Eric Brown, which I think you know him as well.
Yes.
But he has a lot of like, he brings a lot of the male audience. He also has had like lots of success in running his own ice bath and breathwork events. So we both had like event credibility before
Right.
launching it, which definitely helped.
So, so cool. I actually was with Eric this weekend and I was talking with him about it. And I was like, oh, I'm having Lucy on the podcast this week. And yeah, I was just congratulating him. And I just think it's such a beautiful synergy, like what you guys have going on right now. It's
Yeah.
so cool. It's like, I just is a perfect example of like, doing something that is aligned with you, that isn't forced, that makes sense. Like you took the notes from, oh, people trust me. Oh, they're coming out. Like what that, and that's like the hardest part, right? Like
Right.
having an audience trust you is the hardest part. So the fact
Yes.
that they're trusting you enough to literally show up, spend money, and go out of their way and spend their time, energy, and hard-earned money to come to these events because they know they're going to be good. That's the hardest part. That's like,
Yeah.
what you want. So I think it's so incredible to watch and it's just so cool. Just congratulations. Like I truly love seeing the journey.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we also just like learn and adapt a lot. Like I've learned so many things from running the high vibe events that we like
Yeah.
can now apply to Coffee and Chill. And because Coffee and Chill is repetitive, like every time we run an event, we learn new things, we optimize, and then we can like
Mm.
implement at the next event. So
Yeah.
it's
Do you feel like starting the event, was that a big learning curve for you, or was that something that kind of came naturally?
I mean, it was definitely a learning curve. I think more like how to make them actually profitable.
Right.
Events can be extremely costly, especially if you're renting venues and like hiring all of the support staff, and then
Right.
you want the event to be amazing. So there's so many things to spend money on, and you have to be really picky about how to optimize that process. And I
Yeah,
think now
me just having a wedding, I'm like, yes,
I'm
events are very expensive.
exactly. And you want to do the most, like you want all the little
Yep.
details. So you know how it goes. But I think like over time, I've learned how to work with partners, how to work with sponsors, what's worth spending money on, what's not worth spending money on, who are the people that you should pay. Like it's really important to me that we pay anyone who's like part of the experience, our content team, our DJs, our
Right.
instructors. like I have people all the time be like, oh, you don't have to pay me. I'm like, no, no, no. Like I'm going to pay you. Like that's like part of my core values. Like you deserve to be paid. You're making this experience special.
Right.
But when it comes to other things like having gifting and brands involved, I mean, from the influencer marketing standpoint, like you're adding a lot of value for that brand, and like working on all of that on a partnership basis or a paid basis is how we've been able to kind of optimize the system now. But there was a big learning curve from event one to where we are at this stage.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I completely can relate to that in the fact that like you want to make like every little thing so special, and you're like, oh, what's another $100, $200, and then it like all adds up very quickly.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. And I love that you and Eric have formed like such a good partnership. Is that something that came about naturally as well? Like how did your guys' paths cross and how did you
So
decide to do this together?
yeah, I mean, so he actually came to one of my High Vibe events like a year ago. It was a Pilates and plunge event, and I didn't know him at all. And he came and he introduced himself and like had a good time at the event. And then we were just kind of connected because obviously he runs ice bath events and we do similar things. And we stayed in touch on social. Then we had like a couple coffees and just chatted about community building and ice baths and things. And then early this year, we had both been following Coffee and Chill that started in LA. So Coffee and Chill started in LA. We kind of skipped that chapter, but it started in LA, and Miami's the first expansion city. And we both saw like this need in Miami. Whenever I dropped an ice bath event for High Vibe, it would sell out immediately. And like he saw this big market opportunity here where like ice baths right now are expensive to access, expensive to have one at your house. You can get a gym membership, but there's definitely something nice about doing it in a social setting. And also like there's very few options. Anatomy's like $250 a month or whatever. So for me, like I go to classes, I'm not going to pay that just to have the ice bath.
Right.
I did consider, but so we saw this like big opportunity here, and we had chatted about like how could we do something together. Like I think it makes a lot of sense if you want to build a super inclusive community to have a male and female co-founder. It creates a really nice balance in terms of attracting that audience.
Yeah.
And we both have like very complementary skill sets. I work like mostly on partnerships and content, and he works more on like operations and backend and managing the ice baths and things like that. So we had chatted and we both followed Coffee and Chill, and we were like, maybe we could get introduced. And we ended up, both of us have a mutual connection with them, and we were connected to them. And we were like, I think this would do really well in Miami. And then we formed the partnership with Coffee and Chill LA. So that's kind of how that happened. And it's been really nice because I work on High Vibe myself. It's been really nice to have a co-founder to share responsibilities and work with. So it's been a really balanced partnership to date.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. I know sometimes people struggle in their partnerships, but it sounds like you guys, it is really nice when you have different strengths that don't overlap, because then it's like easy to delegate, like, okay, you handle this, I'll handle this, and it kind of makes for a better synergy.
Right, exactly.
So cool. I'd love to know a little bit about what your guys' social strategy looks like, considering that's assuming your guys' main source of marketing, as it is for everything these days. But yeah, walk me through what that looks like. I know you mentioned you have a social team. I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, so we started the account like 2.5 months ago. We're gonna hit 10K, I think, this week, which is super exciting.
Hell yeah.
I haven't seen that kind of growth on my other accounts like that quickly, so it's been really fun
Right.
to see that, and it's happening super organically because, like I said, like it's a big market, so it's reaching a lot of people, and people are just spreading the word of mouth, which has been great. But also the content resonates with so many different types of people. So what our content strategy right now, like we're not perfect. Like it's our goal to post 5 to 7-ish times a week, and just be super active. We try. It's not always, but we have at least two people doing professional content at the events, usually more because our sponsors will usually bring in people as well, and we'll have access to that content. But we have professional photo and video at every event, and then a drone at like every other event. So we get a lot of content because we're activating every other weekend. So it's thousands of pieces of content a month.
Wow.
And then we also have someone who does iPhone video, so we can get really fast, like recaps up day of at the events. And also I've found weirdly iPhone content actually is just doing better in general. So there's that. And we try to do like a combination of like recap reels that really highlight like the whole experience and bring in our sponsors and show the full vibe of what a coffee and chill event looks like. And then we also do interview content where we ask like silly questions or like get people engaged. Like we'll do interviews in the ice bath and things like that. And then we do like some trend focused videos, like trending audios or like whatever is going on currently that might perform well. So we kind of balance it between those and then like a couple photo dumps a week. But just mainly staying super active. Eric's the witty one in our comments. So that's his job to come up with all these fun responses and like keep people engaged in the comments. And like getting back to people super quickly in DMs and like just on top of everything that's going on.
Yeah, that was my next question. If you guys have a social media manager at this point, or you guys are just managing the accounts right now?
We manage most of it. We do have several different editors who edit the different styles of content. So we have support. So we don't really create the content or edit it, but we're very involved in that process with the shot list and the feedback and everything. So it's a bit of both, but we don't have someone like fully managing it. Yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, and as far as having a team and support, is it mostly just you two running it right now, or other than, the editors and whatnot? Do you guys have a team? Do you have a hire? Do you have assistants? What does that look like?
We have a couple VAs and it's mostly Eric and I, and then our content team and our editors. And then we work closely with Coffee and Chill, like the founders, Luke and George in LA. We work closely with them on like bigger vision stuff and like some of the back end stuff. But it's not like there's no like full team. It's just us. But we do work like I'd say at least 40 hours a week on it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, we kind of thought it was like a side hustle. And I don't think a lot of people realize like what goes into creating these experiences. And we're planning now through the end of 2024. So it's a lot of upfront work to get ahead in terms of like booking sponsors and venues and all of that. Like there's a lot. I think people just don't realize what goes into creating an event like that.
Yeah, they think it's like a birthday party at like a park. No, it's so cool, especially like the volume in which you guys were doing it. I didn't realize you guys were doing it every other week until I spoke with Eric last week, and that's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's super fun.
Like blink twice if you need help.
No, yeah. I mean, it's 500 people every other weekend.
Wow.
And then we'll probably throw in some other pop-up events here and there. So it'll probably be more than that eventually. But the demand is there and people are loving it. People are always like, can we do it every weekend? I'm like, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
It's like, do you want to help? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. We also have incredible volunteers. I got to shout them out because we could not do it without them. So like anyone who's come to an event before can apply to volunteer. And we have at least like 5 to 15 at every event that like really help us set up and do check-in and all of that. So it does not run without our volunteers.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And the fact that they even want to be, volunteering their time to be a part of the community, and it's so cool. It really shows that you're creating like this really great environment that people want to be a part of, not because they feel obligated, but because they want to be there, which is awesome.
No, it's super exciting. And like they get to see like, they get the behind the scenes community. They get like those closer relationships with other people volunteering. We put out applications and we had hundreds of people apply to volunteer. It was crazy.
Aww.
So, but it's really fun. And like they get to experience the event too, of course. And they get so now it's hard to get a ticket. So they like that they're guaranteed entry.
Right. No, that's so cool. How do you feel like you capitalize on your own platform to share the word about the events you have going on? Like, do you have any sort of strategy for that? Do you feel like you're intentional about, posting the events and sharing about the events and doing behind the scenes, or does it just kind of come naturally?
I definitely, it is a goal to share more about the behind the scenes. I think that would benefit the whole thing. And I think people are interested. Whenever I do share, it's like gets great engagement. But I just get so busy. Like I'll start vlogging my day and then it's like halfway through and I'm like, I forgot like 10 things. So I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yes.
I'm not super intentional about it right now. And honestly, like I do in the beginning, I was sharing a lot, like go follow the Coffee and Chill page, go follow High Vibe, like pushing my audience there. But now like it kind of runs on its own, like it's its own thing, especially Coffee and Chill. Like the brand is so strong. People are no longer coming because it's like just because of me or Eric. It's
Right.
kind of growing on its own. We had somebody who'd come to all the events come recently and they were like, I don't know anyone here. Like this is a whole new audience. Like it's gotten out of the like 3 touch points away, like friend of a friend of a friend. It's like reaching a much broader demographic now. So it's just running on its own. I mean, it's been crazy. Like the last ticket drop, I was getting on an airplane and I was like, oh, I'm not going to see it sell out. Like Eric, like just let me know, like whatever. And it sold out in 6 minutes and like my phone was blowing up and I was just like, what is happening?
So cool. So cool. And it really just shows how there is this opportunity where people, one, want to be more involved in wellness things, and two, want to
Yes.
socialize in that environment. Like it is such a great opportunity to meet people in real life. And I think obviously, post-COVID, even though it was 4 years away now, like people are still, I feel like, feeling the effects of that and wanting to socialize more and like
Yeah.
will take the opportunities to say yes to things.
Totally. And to socialize without drinking. People have said
Yeah.
like, wow, this is the most like fun social environment I've been in that doesn't involve alcohol. Like it feels like a bit of not a party, but like it's a pretty high
High
vibe.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We have a DJ, like we had live music at one event. Like it's definitely people are dancing, like it's that type of vibe. And without drinking, it's pretty incredible. It's also the benefits of the ice bath. Like you get out and you get this massive dopamine hit. So everyone is feeling like literally their best at
So
the
cool.
yeah.
So cool. Okay, what would be your best advice for others who are listening who might be looking to build that type of tight-knit community or an audience that trusts them? What would be your best insight and advice for them?
I think showing like the vulnerable sides of yourself definitely goes a long way. When I was sharing about feeling lonely and not knowing where to meet friends and feeling isolated and frustrated and alone, that's what really drew the initial group of people on social into my audience. They were like, I feel that way. I understand. I
Right.
also want to meet friends. So I think that's part of it. I think if you want to build community in real life, like you have to make your content so targeted to like a local, whether that's sharing local recommendations or local advice or like really tying it to your city, because I see so many people with way more followers than I have try to do events in person, but like their audience isn't here. Like it has
Right.
to be, if you're trying to bring them in person in real life, like it has to be in your own city. So like whatever you can do to target that content, like Miami's and all of my hashtags, my bio, like anywhere. And you don't have to have a big following. I mean, I only have 7,000 followers on Instagram. And like that just shows that it matters more about how engaged they are and where they are than the numbers you're reaching for this specific type of thing. If you want to
Right.
build something in person.
Right.
And then I think just the general social media tips of being really consistent and posting a lot and like not paying too much attention to the numbers. I definitely have found myself feel down about it at times, like, oh my God, I've been posting every day for literally years and like I feel
Yep.
like nothing's happening. But it really doesn't necessarily matter, the numbers themselves, and just to keep going. Like there's been plenty of times where I'm like, honestly, maybe I'll just stop posting. Like I can't, like, or like I'll just want to give up. And like I do
Feel
think
that.
breaks are healthy, but also like just keep going. Like it will pay off. The consistency is way more important than like how many followers you have. Yeah, I think those are my general tips. And then if you are building community in person, I think it's about like with Coffee and Chill and High Vibe, it's about getting super specific about like what your experience is and how it's different and why is somebody going to come to this over other things, and like the behind the scenes of that, and not just being like, oh, because like we like wellness. Like there's a lot of thought that people don't see, even with the Coffee and Chill brand and High Vibe. Like there's a lot of thought that goes into every decision that people don't see, but it does have an impact on that virality, on the engagement in the community, on the success of what's happening.
Totally. And what would be, as a last branch question off of that, what would be your best tip for virality on these types of videos?
For like in-person experiences.
Yeah.
So what's working really well is like the interview content works super well. Like asking people
Hmm.
at the event, like I think people from the outside want to know what kind of people are going to be there. There's nothing worse than going to
Oh,
an event where it's like, no one came to this, or these
yeah.
are not the people I'm trying to meet. So I think
Right.
giving them some insight. So at this last event, we haven't posted it yet, but there's one about like, what do you do for work? Or like, what do you do for a living? You've seen those go viral in like
Hmm.
so many different cities, but we did it at Coffee and Chill. We're doing, lots of questions about where do you meet people in Miami, or why did you come to Coffee and Chill, or what do you want to get out of this experience? So giving people insight into the types of community members that they can expect to see at the events.
Cool. That is such great insight and not something I would have thought. So super, and it's crazy because it's like nothing like super complex and like, planned out with a shot list. Like it's just a real authentic
Yeah.
people. Like it's just people being people. And I think that's what people are craving nowadays on social media. So when they see it, they engage in it
Yeah.
and they become, invested in it.
Yeah, it used to be like the highly curated content and the
Right.
aesthetics, and now I feel like we're going backwards because people are just kind of over that. It just feels
100%.
fake or something. Yeah.
100%. So, so cool. Tell us what is next for everything you have going on, high vibe, coffee and chill, all of it. What can we look forward to seeing from you?
Oh boy. Well, we like to keep a lot of things a secret to the last second, but we're going to be doing a lot of like fun themes and pop-up events. So with Coffee and Chill, we just did race weekend during Formula One. We did swim week. We did Father's Day. This next one is going to be a summer kickoff. So you can expect a lot more like fun themes and going even bigger than that for sure. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff like around Art Basel and different Miami moments that are coming up. And in terms of Coffee and Chill as a whole, you'll definitely be seeing it in a lot more cities coming soon. So that's very
Yeah.
exciting. And then with High Vibe, we're going to be launching some new special programming soon as well, but it's all top secret. So just follow us on Instagram and you'll see all the tea.
I love it. And last question, how do you balance it all with so much going on right now?
I'm learning that as we go.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
perfect answer.
Yeah, that's the truth. I think recently it definitely picked up more. I think I thought like, oh, okay, Coffee and Chill is the same event in theory every other weekend, like it's the same programming, but it's really not because we change venues and we have new sponsors and everything. So activating every other week is a lot, especially with all the other events that I do. So I'm learning how to balance it all. I think my tips would be a strong morning time for yourself. Like for me, it's different every day, but like doing something for me, whether that's like a dance party on my balcony by
Love it.
myself or a
Yeah,
stretch or journaling, something to like ground myself before I'm immediately like in my inbox, on my phone, on social media, which is hard. Like it's hard not to just go straight there in the morning, but it's super important. I also really prioritize my sleep. 8 hours minimum
love
asleep
it.
before 11 every single night, like pretty much without fail.
Love it.
That's been like really important for maintaining the level of stress that I have and like the amount of things I'm doing and my mental health. And then staying super active in terms of work. Like I've been now recently hiring VAs and like starting to outsource, which is hard when I'm like, I want to control it all,
I
but
know
no,
it is
it's
tough.
like, it's so tough, but it's so needed. Like getting good people and working with other people and taking things off your plate that aren't super high leverage tasks
Exactly.
is big. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. If people want to follow you and follow your journey, where can they follow you at?
They can find myself at Lucelia, Lucelia, Nelles on Instagram, and that's my personal. And then you'll also see in my bio, there's all links to the other events, Coffee and Chill Miami on Instagram, and High Vibe spelled HI vibe.wellness on Instagram.
So, so good. If you guys like this episode, please share it with a friend. If you're in Miami, if you're in South Florida, go check out these events. They are amazing. I have to make my way to one. I'm so excited. And we will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye.